Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a build guide for the Blood Hunter class mod in Baldur's Gate 3 made by LemonsSoup, now available on console. This mod class was made by Matt Mercer, who voices Minsc in Baldur's Gate 3, and he actually created what was called the Witch Hunter. It was for Vin Diesel of all people for a one-shot D&D campaign. He later refined it into the Blood Hunter, which is now one of the most popular homebrew class. Today we'll be focusing on the Ghostslayer subclass. I previously posted a video for the like-in before Halloween, so you can check that out if you're curious, but the Ghostslayer can add radiant damage to their attacks with a new Crimson Rite. They can also use their blood rights against targets that don't have blood with their passive, and they can also do an Aether Wath attack, an Aether Step, which lets them teleport and get some good mobility. So the Blood Hunter gets special blood curses, and we also get an ability at level 2, which we'll get to, but we get Hemocraft Magic, which is a 1d4 die, which will actually hurt ourselves to give ourselves some different abilities. We also have the Hunter's Bane here, getting advantage on survival checks. We get to choose between a couple different blood curses here now. What's cool is we can amplify them to do even further benefits. I really like the Blood Curse and the Ancients here, which is normally not that great, giving advantage on intimidation checks, which is good, but not amazing. But its amplified version gives wisdom saving throws, disadvantage to whatever target we apply that to, so things like Hold Person Command will land easier. I'm going to go with the Blood Curse of the Marked here. This will give additional necrotic damage when you attack and a target, and we can also amplify to give ourselves advantage. I also like the Blood Curse of the Eyeless here. When a creature within 9 meters attacks an ally, you can choose to disrupt their vision and lower the attack roll by 1d4, and then you can also amplify it to make it affect all their attack rolls that turn. We are going to go with a stat spread of, I like to go 16 dexterity, 14 constitution, 16 intelligence here. The intelligence is the spellcasting modifier for this class. There is a mod that'll add wisdom if you prefer that. I like to still have a bit of high wisdom because that's going to help out with saves against wisdom spells like command and hold person. And I like to build around dexterity, but you can also go around strength, or if you want to use a strength potion, you can use the stat spread as well because we have our strength dumped. Dexterity has a lot of really great early game weapons like Fowler Alluve that you can use for further damage with our extra blood curses. Level 2 is when we get to take our rites. Now, I had a second Blood Hunter class mod when I installed this one because it was causing issues between having two of the mods installed at the same time. It deleted the icon, but there is an icon for this, and it's really well done, but we'll get to that there. This also comes with, I guess, cold damage, which sets up things like the Snowburst Ring to be powerful, fire damage if you want to do a heat build, which just kind of sucks, and we can do a lightning charge build with the Rite Storm, so at level 2, we get a lot of really fun builds in Baldur's Gate 3. We also get to take a fighting style. Defense is typically one of the best. Getting a +1 armor class is extremely valuable. Unless you want to use a two-handed weapon, that great weapon fighting is also really good. And the Crimson Rite that we're going to go with is the cold one. Obviously, cold damage is one of my favorites, but it's very powerful because this procs the Snowburst Ring to do additional surfaces below the enemies, and then we can use specific gear so that we don't slip and the enemies will. And level 3 is when we get to take our subclass. We're going to go with the Ghostslayer for this one because I actually prefer to use the Rite of the Dawn. This will give radiant damage, and radiant damage procs way more gear than cold does. We also get a subclass feature, additional use of our Blood Maledict, and our Blood Curses can target any creature even if they would normally be immune. We also get to choose between a different spell from our normal Blood Curses here. Bloated Agony is good, giving the target disadvantage on strength and dexterity checks, and a 1d8 of necrotic damage every time that it attacks. But I think that the Blood Curse of Exposure is my preferred one here. You can ignore resistances, and if you amplify it, you ignore immunities. That's just really good in a wide variety of situations. So we're going to take that. Level 4 gives us a feat. Alert is typically a good choice, but you can go with an increase to your dex or your intelligence. I think dex, or I guess strength, if you're using that, is best to give ourselves better weapon attack rolls, because at level 5, we get our extra attack. We're primarily a martial attacker, but we kind of like a ranger in a sense. We do have some really powerful abilities, but not to the Nova potential that a paladin has. We also get the Hemocraft Magic, which is now a 1d6 die instead of 1d4. So at level 5, the power spike is here. Level 6 gives us the class feature Branded Castigation, so you can sear an arcane brand into a creature that you attack with a Crimson Rite. Each time that the branded creature deals damage to you or a nearby ally, you can retaliate, dealing damage equal to your spellcasting ability modifier, which is right now 3. Not amazing, but it's something. We also then get to take another Blood Curse, and this is a good choice. They're all honestly situationally good. The Muddled Mind can break concentrations and give the target disadvantage on them. And then the Blood Curse of the Anxious is good for landing your control spells. I actually think that it's good to go with the Muddled Mind here because this can just be a good way to stop a concentration that's nearby. It's pretty powerful. We also at level 7 get our Aether Walk. We step into the Veil between planes for 3 rounds, and we can use Aether Step to teleport around. We can, again, at any time change our Crimson Rite if you prefer using certain items, or if you got a cool piece of gear that you want to proc with this, you can go right ahead. Level 8, we get our second feat here, so the dexterity increase is a nice choice. Savage Attacker is a good choice too because this rerolls your damage die on melee weapon attacks. Obviously a really strong build when we're a melee focused character, but you can also go with any of the other feats that you may prefer. I just think going with ability score improvement, increasing our initiative and attack rolls is a good choice. Level 9 gives us our Grim Psychometry here, getting advantage on history checks, which is great, I guess, to have at this point in the game. Level 10 then gives us the Dark Augment. Movement speed increases by 1.5 meters. You add bonus to your dex, strength, and constitution saving scores. That is a little bit of a tooltip bug that it doesn't always show that properly. But we also get to take another Blood Curse. And at this point, I like the Blood Curse of the Anxious just for the upcasted effect. You can bind creatures too to stop them from moving. Like, you just have so many fun abilities here. Level 11 gives us our 1d8 Hemocraft die now. So this is what hurts us, but also our extra damage that we deal with our melee attacks. And then we also get the Brand of Sundering, which is our subclass feature. So you sear an arcane brand into a creature you attack with a Crimson Rite. And each time that the branded creature deals damage to you or a nearby ally, you can retaliate, which then does your spellcasting ability modifiers damage. So giving it a bit extra damage when it attacks your allies as well. So very nice. And for the final level here, level 12, we get to take another feat. We can go with an ability score improvement to max that out. I just think that the Savage Attacker is a good choice too, since we're going to be going with melee attacks. This is a good one. You can also take Sentinel. That's another really fun ability because you can get a little extra damage off on that as well. So your personal preference between these or the ability score improvement. And even Tough is okay if you want to be a little tankier. Now, it can go past level 12, but I'm not going to do it with this build. It just gives you more Blood Maledicts here, which is okay. But yeah, actually, I'll just continue on because we can take the rest of these. And you can finish off the Crimson Rites there if you want to get the full list of all of those there. Level 15, just more health. So you can multi-class this. It actually multi-class pretty well. Hemocraft Die still 1d8 there. We get another feat. Sentinel is always a good choice too because that lets us weaponize our reaction. Class feature there, another Blood Maledict. We can take our final Blood Curse at level 18. If we're going to level 20, the Tough Feat gives us 40 extra health, which is really good. And level 20 does not have a capstone, but you do get to choose all the abilities from going this high. Oh, it didn't say it correctly in the tooltip, but it actually does now scale up to a 1d10. So yeah, that's pretty nice. This was actually the last updated 7 hours ago. So just a heads up, that may not be live on console. Just want to point this out. I'm also using the Enchanted Threads, and a really fun weapon is actually the Scurvy's Dark Knight Progressive set, which would actually fit thematically pretty well here because it comes with some special skills as well. Now, for using base game gear, there's actually a lot of really good choices, primarily because we do have this special Rite of the Dawn, adding radiant damage to our attacks. If you're going to use cold damage, the Rite of the Frozen, my recommendation for rings would be to throw on the Snowburst ring, which will create ice surfaces below the enemies. If you're going to go that route, I'd recommend taking the Disintegrating Nightwalkers. There's a few other boots that'll prevent you from slipping, the Hoarfrost boots or the Helldusk boots as well. But if you're not going to go that route, I actually think the best way to do this is, there's two armor choice, I guess. We'll start with the chest armor. Armor of Agility late game has a high armor classes. We'll put it up to 26. But the Luminous armor is great too, because if we're going to build around Radiating Orbs, this is just the best. It's going to create a 3-meter radius that explodes with Radiating Orbs on all enemies. We also have the Luminous Gloves, further stacking Radiating Orbs. And then we also get the Coruscation Ring, which will also stack Radiating Orbs whenever we deal spell damage, and it can proc off of our Blood Rites here. And then we also got the Callous Glow Ring, which will give us 2 points of Radiant damage, which will then proc all this gear. Since we're proccing a condition, the Boots of Stormy Clamor works really nice here. And then we also got the Cloak Protection. And what's a silly little cheese is that the Radiating Orbs doesn't mess with darkness. So we can actually then set up in darkness. We can't be blinded with the Seal Watcher helmet. And there's a few other items like the Eversight Ring that can give you the magical darkness vision. This makes you a true ghost hunter because we're hiding out in darkness and using the power of the light to compel the enemies to not hit our team. It kind of comes together really funny. Darkness and light combined together, even though, yeah, we do have it's primarily just because we're the Rite of the Dawn opening up this way of playing with the gear that we have in Baldur's Gate 3. Again, it's just about the advantages of getting the most protection for your team and all that stuff. So the Sacred Star is a strength-based weapon if you're using the Strength Potion. This is a great one because it adds an additional 1d4 of radiant damage and it applies 1 turn of Radiating Orbs on hit. You can also go with the Blood of Lathander too in the early game as an option if you have Strength Potions there. If you don't want to use Strength Potions, as mentioned, the Fowler Alluve is a fantastic weapon. The Shrieking Song will deal additional thunder damage, so it's really good because we can proc a lot of extra damage riders off on enemies. Nightrawler is nice too because you can throw it. You could also take a Tavern Brawler and use this because it works really good on this build too, funny enough. And you can even use Orin's Daggers or even throw the Dolor Amiris on there for the extra critical hit damage. So we got a lot of short sword. I guess even the best choice would probably be the Knife of the Undermountain King in the early game. And another one, if you really like Shadowblade, you can use the Ring of Shadowblade to get the free 2d8 version of it. There's a permanent Shadowblade you can also make. I got a video on how to do that if you prefer. So there's a few options if you want something different than the Radiant kind of all-in build that we're doing. And we're going to always remember to apply the Ray of the Dawn. This will hurt our character. We took a 2d4, we saved on it. We only took a little tiny bit of damage. But since we have Tough, we can take that extra few hits. And if you don't already have the Ray of the Dawn active, you can apply that. You can then use the Blood Curse of the Marked here and pick a target that we want to focus on, because then we're going to deal additional 1d4 of necrotic damage to this target, which is great. And then you can also go ahead here and amplify it if you wanted to. This will give you advantage in your attack roll against them. So this can be nice if there's a specific target that we really wanted to take out. But I like to sometimes save it for a little bit later, because sometimes we're already doing good in terms of our damage output, and we want to use it to debuff and set up another one of our teammates. So typically I'm just going to use my action that I didn't use the free critical hit there, but we rolled an additional 19 necrotic or radiant damage on that. That was really great. And that, that was only 15 plus 2, and it rolled in front of it. But yeah, that's pretty good. That's a Sacred Star proccing twice. And the best part about it is it's also getting a reroll from the Savage Attacker. I can't step and attack that target, so I'm just going to run over here. Honestly, yeah, the damage output from this is pretty good, because adding a 1d10 is obviously quite powerful. At this point now, we can go ahead with adding, using the Blood Curse of the Agony there, because this is going to make the target take additional damage. Or we can do something else, like use the Marked here if we have a target that's going to go and attack again. And we can end concentration with the Muddled Mind. So we got lots of great options. I think the Bloated Agony is a good choice here. And we can also amplify it if we wanted to. We have a few vital essence charges, so we're actually going to use the Bloated Agony here upcasting, which will last for 10 turns. And what's great is now every time that they attack, they're going to take that 1d10 of damage. They also got Reverberation, because that's considered a condition, so perfect. But for some reason, it applied Radiating Orbs onto myself. Oh yeah, I guess it gives the Radiating Orbs because we have it's applying spell damage to us. So we're actually doing radiant damage to ourselves. And we'll end off our turn with a Dawnburst Strike here. Hopefully, didn't take out the radiant. But we got the Brand of the Sundering here, so this is really good. This uses one of our brand charges, and this will make them take our intelligence modifier. I don't think it's enough to take them out with our Call of Week here, but yeah, it was enough to do a little extra damage. So that was pretty good for our first turn. So this person in front of us just got hit with an attack coming at us, so yeah, they just drop right now. On the second turn of combat, it's really about finding those that have concentrations and trying to stop them with the Curse of the Muddled Mind there. If there's no concentrations, then we can proceed to either going with the Bloated Agony. I like to save this one for a little bit later, but use the Curse of the Marked on the first turn of combat if there's a target with a lot of health, because then everyone can get a bit of extra damage off, and give yourself advantage on them by amplifying the attack. But yeah, we don't really have any need for that right yet, so we're going to save it. I'll just go with an attack here. I probably could use actually the Mark there, because I would have saved maybe one attack off on that target. We also are a pretty good range attacker, and I really like the curses that you can see below the target. So this is the target that we actually put the Bloated Agony on earlier. Really cool. So I'm just going to do the attack there, because that gave us additional damage off, which was more than enough to take them out. And another thing about this is we can use our range attacks here. So sometimes you just need to use a Arrow of Many Targets. I can't position myself there. I was able to put Fairy Fire and Reverberation on both targets, so good for debuffing, I guess. And I'm going to use the Bloated Agony again here. I'm going to upcast it onto this target so that hopefully they get they attack twice. They typically will, so that could give them a couple extra damage. And they just took the damage there, so 3 points of damage, and they missed us, so that's perfect. And then they just took 8 points of damage. So they ended up taking more damage than they dealt that turn, which is perfect, which means that we can leave them alone and focus our fire on this target here. I can't run in there, unfortunately, so I can use the Blood Curse of the Marked here and then apply a little extra damage on them, I guess, to go ahead there, and then go with a ranged attack. And Arrow of Humanoid Slaying, I guess, is our best option. If you're a Ghost Hunter, you're going to have all the tools there. That was enough to break the concentration. And we'll use an Arrow of Many Targets for good measure. There's no one else around there. Oh, it did change. Sometimes we'll get lucky like that. And I'm just going to let them suffer from their Bloated Agony there. We can just let them, because they're going to continually chip away at their health. And then what's great is now, I was hoping I would get to choose this. So they need a 15 to hit. They rolled a 16. We can use this. This reduces it by a 1d4, and that's perfect. That's exactly what we needed. And this can also make it so that the target's immune to blinding condition, get a flied by it. But this target is not immune to blindness, so we can then go ahead and it turned that hit into a miss. Typically, when I go to showcase, turning a hit into a miss, it always fails. That was nice to see it happen right for once. But we can just go ahead here and again mark this target. We will be putting a little extra necrotic damage on us because we're in shade now, so we don't actually apply the debuff. So they're pretty debuff. This is going to one-shot them. There it is. That is the Blood Hunter Ghostslayer subclass by LemonsSoup here. Let me know which of these subclasses you want to see next. I'm thinking the Mutant. I really like the Witcher, and it seems very inspired by the Witcher, but this is an incredible class mod. LemonsSoup did a great job. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I hope you have a great day.